finally, we arrive at Cyclades, or what we call Cyclades. In Greek, kyklos is a circle, so these islands, because they form a circle, are called Cyclades, Cyclades. Everyone expects me to start with Santorini, the most famous wine appellation of Greece, at least beyond our borders, but I'll leave that for last. Let's start from Paros, the only other island that has some PDOs and producing some excellent wines. Paros is a beautiful island, tourists all over the world love it, and the wines Paros produces deserve to be better known. We have two PDOs on the island, PDO Paros and PDO Malvasia of Paros. That latter appellation is one of these Malvasia PDOs that have been relatively recently established to reinstate Malvasia wine back to its former glory. The most widely planted grape on the island is Monemvasia, which is a white grape. We've seen Monemvasia when we were talking about the wines of Monemvasia town in Peloponnese. But if you ask me why a grape that takes its name after a town in Peloponnese is the most popular on the Paros island, don't ask me, I have no idea. But a PDO Paros white has to be a pure Monemvasia, a quench-thirsting, fruity white. For PDO reds, we have again 2/3 of Monemvasia and 1/3 of Mandilaria. Mandilaria is so deeply colored black grape that when co-fermented with 2/3 of white grape can give so deeply colored wines that can be even more opaque than a Cabernet Sauvignon. If there is a common thing running through PDO Paros whites, regardless whether white and red, is that they invite you to have a second glass. But of course, you have to keep in mind that we always enjoy wine responsibly. The same thing runs through Malvasia of Paros, a PDO again that is basically Monemvasia, but you can have about 10% of Assyrtiko added. A Malvasia Paros wine has to be sweet, coming from sun-dried grapes and aged in oak for a long time. For the development in the future of the wines produced on an island, it's not so important to look at the quantity of the tourists, but at their quality as well. This works nicely for Paros, but even more so for Tinos, which is one of the most well-kept secrets of the Aegean Sea. In there, the surroundings, the quality of the gastronomy and the quality of the wines produced are impeccable. Every time I visit Tinos or I taste a new wine from the island, I have one of these "it must be something in the water" moments, and they don't have a lot of water on the island, to be frank. Every single producer is well above average, and there's barely a bad wine on the island. The grapes can be local, like Rosaki or Potamisi, but also we have grapes introduced from Santorini, like Assyrtiko and Mavrotragano. These really shine on Tinos. If I had a crystal ball, I would use it to see what may come up in the next 20 years from islands of Cyclades that currently do not have a significant presence in the modern Greek wine scene. I would think about islands like Naxos or Syros, or the best bet, wines or more wines from Mykonos. That would be something. But since I have the crystal ball, I would also use it to try and see what has the future for the wines of Santorini. A very, very tricky matter. Santorini is a top quality tourist destination, maybe you've noticed that, and it has that quality written across the board. Top quality vistas, top quality gastronomy, and top quality wines. It's a very thorny matter whether the tourist sector of the island will be able to coexist with the wine sector. Actually, whether these two will co-evolve in the future, or if cannibalization exists in the future. If such a thing happens, then, frankly, we all know who will be the victim. Santorini is one of the most extraordinary, almost bizarre ecosystems out there, full stop, This is before we start thinking about the vine growing implications. It's a volcano, a very recent volcano, with volcanic soils that are not just phylloxera free, they are phylloxera immune. That means that the phylloxera bug cannot invade the island. We don't have enough clay on the soil to have such an invasion. Then we're having a lot of sun, a lot of wind, a very dry climate. And the caldera. The caldera brings up mist every morning, and we have nature's most sophisticated drip irrigation system. Without this, there would be no plants on the island. And the result, the child of this dramatic ecosystem, is Assyrtiko, one of the most intriguing grape varieties in the world. A white grape that has a lot of drama in it because, in essence, it is a red grape. It pretends to be a white grape only in color. Why? Because we have a lot of different elements coming into this grape. We have high acidity and high alcohol at the same time. We have a structure that resembles tannins without actually having a lot of them. We have a wine that is not fruity, more mineral. If you think about the minerality word, just have a glass of Assyrtiko and all the question marks will be solved. In some ways, the wines of Santorini are hymns to the human mind, to the human genius. Locals had to deal with a hostile environment coupled with an absolutely sublime grape variety. They worked heroically in the vineyards. They came up with remarkable solutions and created something utterly beautiful. One of these solutions, possibly the most important, the Kulura training system. The Kulura, the basket training system, works as a nest for the bunches of grapes. It protects from the wind and from the sun, while it traps inside the tiny amount of humidity available. The downside of it? Tiny yields. I'll give an example just to have a figure. Out of a hectare of vineyard in other parts of Greece, you can easily get something like 10 tons of grapes. There are other parts of the world with heavily irrigated vineyards that they can produce 2 or even 3 times that amount of grapes. In Santorini, if they get 3 tons out of a hectare, they feel blessed. The implications of owning vineyards in Santorini go well beyond these numbers. If you have a hectare on that island, then you can use it in far more profitable ways, so vine growing is under attack. This is why we should support the wines of Santorini. These are works of art, coming out of a combination of a place with a fierce character, of the back-breaking work of Homo sapiens and Assyrtiko. Taking all these things into account, these wines have prices that are very, very low. A PDO Santorini wine has to be white and based on Assyrtiko. You can also have small proportions of 2 other grape varieties, Nychteri, a grape that we have seen in other places around Greece, and Aegena, a local grape that rounds the palate structure of Assyrtiko and adds a bit more fruit. On the island, we also have the magnificent black grape of Mavrotragano, producing excellent Mourvèdre-like wines, but these wines are not included under the PDO umbrella. The universe of Santorini PDO wines involves a number of quite idiosyncratic styles. Nychteri. When we want to make a Nychteri, we harvest the best Assyrtiko grapes very, very late at high degrees of ripeness, usually something like 15 or 20 days after the main harvest. These grapes produce wines with high alcohol, completely balanced with equally high acidity. Then we age these wines in oak barrels for a number of months. A number of producers do not top up the barrels up to the brim, so the wines acquire a slightly oxidative character, which is the hallmark of Nychteri. Do you want to have an Assyrtiko that is completely unleashed, running free, running wild? Grab a bottle of Nychteri. And then it is Vin Santo, the sweet BDO wine of Santorini. We select the best grapes from the best vineyards, Assyrtiko with a bit of Aidani and Nychteri. We let these grapes to dry under the hot Aegean sun for up to 15 days. Then this concentrated juice is fermented with the skins, and the resulting nectar is drawn off to rest in barrel for years, if not for decades. Vin Santo is in essence surreal. I'll explain. You have a vineyard that produces a tiny amount of grapes. You take these grapes and you sun dry them, losing a big proportion of their liquids. And then you make some wine. You put them in oak, and every year you lose, because of evaporation, anything between 3 and 5% of what is in there. Can you imagine this loss accumulated over 5 years, 10 years, even 20 years? This is not winemaking, this is damage control. So, after all these years, you grab a glass of Vin Santo, and this is the juice of several square meters of volcanic earth. An earth that you could use to have a swimming pool and get a decent return even in a lousy May. And with this mental representation of a glass of Vin Santo, we reach the end of the final episode of eGREEKwine, an educational initiative of the Greek Wine Federation. You can get all the videos on the Greek Wine Federation's YouTube channel. All I can say is that I barely covered the basic facts. Greek wine has a lot more to offer. You have a lot more to discover. Greek wine is exciting, and Greek producers need your support. So, until then, stay safe and looking forward to seeing you in Greece.